Hey everybody. So, I'm so excited to be the 20 minutes before you get to have cocktails and go home. But I wanted to share a story with you, or a journey with you. This is all about EY and purpose and me. And I realized that, so I came to the conference. I don't go to D&I conferences a lot. I'm not a D&I person. I'm not even an HR person. I'm a consultant. Just a consultant. And so I thought what I would do is try and represent the journey that EY has been on. And I realized that you all are experts at that. And what I can share with you is my journey and purpose and where it intersected with EY's journey and purpose. And that might make more sense. Now, the part where it won't make sense is when it feels like I'm looking out the wrong end of the telescope and things are really far away in the D&I front. But I'm going to try and turn it around and show you what it looked like from D&I. But I'm not going to get all the words right. I'm not going to get the entire program. But I think it's an interesting journey, and so that's why I thought I would share it with you. I have been at EY about 10 years. I've been in consulting most of my career. I started out at A.T. Kearney in 1978. And for those of you whose minds just went to doing some math, is that a form of unconscious bias? That's what I want to know. I'm a little sensitive about it lately. I just recently took the dates off of LinkedIn and went through that part of the process. When I first joined EY, I met with the partner who headed up audit. He'd been there 29 years. And I saw my resume on his desk and I said, boy, I bet you don't know what to make of that. And he said, Hal, I just can't imagine interviewing that much. And so, yes, I've had a lot of jobs. I've worked for A.T. Kearney, KPMG, Hewitt Associates, a small consulting firm called Archstone Consulting. I started out in systems and then got into knowledge management and got into change management, large-scale organizational change, and the focus on the people and helping them through these change journeys. So that's kind of how I got here, and I didn't join EY because it was a love connection on purpose right off the bat. I've always had sort of a volunteer bent, kind of philanthropy-oriented. I got involved with the Merit Music Program years ago, longer time than that, a program called Youth at Risk, and so I've always been interested in volunteerism, but I'll tell you how that connects to the story in a little bit. So I joined EY, and EY started its purpose journey a few years later, and we had a group called. I went to a meeting. We had training on. Inclusion and diversity. So I went to the training, and then I went to an Out and Equal meeting that EY sponsored. And there was a panel, and there was 4 women on the panel. And EY is a place where I learned, kind of a late bloomer, I learned how to bring all of who I am to work. It's the first place I felt really comfortable to do that. And that's part of the story that I want to tell you about what EY was doing, but that's part of my journey too. So I looked at this panel of these 4 women and I said, if I found it a challenge to bring who I am to work, what challenge must it be for the LGBTQ community? And here's this panel with 4 women. What if they had a sort of old-ish white guy on the panel with them who was an ally? That might be worth something, and I'm as interested in it. So I ended up becoming the executive sponsor for the Unity Group at EY. And I did that for 2 years, and I went to an Out and Equal conference and learned a lot. And then I went to another group called EY Presents, and these are all professional networks. So this is part of the way that we create community and have people get together and make connections and find their purpose, or part of their purpose and meaning. And so we brought these 2 groups together, EY Presents and the Unity Group. And EY Presents is like Toastmasters, so people give a speech. And people gave different speeches, and there was a young woman who joined the firm recently who gave a speech about how hard it must be to come out at our clients. And so how that's sort of different than coming out at work, and what that was like for her, and how supportive her team was. And I sent her a note afterwards just to thank her for having the courage and for sharing that with us. And she said, you don't know the half of it. She said, I wasn't planning to come out. I usually don't tell people about that. I don't tell my employers, certainly not my clients, but it seemed like such a safe environment. And so I thought I would take a risk and do that. And so that matched my experience of the environment. And by this time, EY had made it somewhat down the road on its purpose journey. And so I wanted to kind of explain how these things intersect, and then tell you a bit about what EY was doing at that time as the employees in EY were trying to find ways to connect and to express their purpose. So talk about our journey a little bit, and then about some lessons learned. And then in closing, I'll just talk about sort of how we're looking at the future. Because EY took this journey and we take it to market. So as part of the consulting that we do in our group, we help our clients through this. And I'll explain some of the things that we've learned along the way. So in 2012 or so, EY started this journey to take a look at the firm, kind of top to bottom. And this is, by the way, so this is the part where I'm looking through the other end of the telescope. I don't know all the machinations that were going on. This is what it looks like to a consultant who's one of the 160, 70,000 employees in the firm globally. But what they were facing, they held a mirror up and said, there's a lot of things that are going on that are affecting us. The average age of our employees, the robotics that are coming in, the importance of purpose, the space, and the way people were using the office. So there's all these stressors that were changing. And around this time, so that created a sense of urgency and an impetus. But what I think was the spark was Simon Sinek. How many folks have heard of Simon Sinek, Discover Your Why, Your Purpose, Leaders Eat Last? Okay, good. Enough of you. So I can't do his whole TED Talk before you hit the bar, but if you want to meet me in the bar, I'm happy to give you my version of his TED Talk there. But his TED Talk, he basically says that companies spend too much time on what they sell, and they'll even tell you a lot about how they sell it, how they make it, but they don't tell you why they're in business. And so he talks about the why. And he says people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And he has a very compelling explanation for that. He even talks about the scientific foundation for it, the limbic brain, the lizard brain, and the prehistoric, and then now the Homo sapien brain with the neocortex, cortex, and we have rational thought and logic. But he says the decision-making part of the brain is the limbic, the prehistoric. And if you don't speak to that part of the brain, then you won't get customers or employee engagement or other things. That's where the meaning is. There's a lot of talk about meaning today, which I thought was interesting, and trust. So I think it's all kind of related, because this limbic brain is survival. So it's very much probably wired into trust and feeling safe. So we discovered Simon Sinek. Somebody in our leadership got forwarded the TED Talk, watched the video. We were on a march to do Vision 2020. So back in 2012, 13, 2020 seemed like a long time away. Now I imagine in the next year we'll come up with Vision 2025, 2030. I don't know what our next increment will be, but we got to be getting close. So Simon affected us tremendously. In fact, we developed a partnership with him because when he saw what we were doing on our road to purpose, he said, that's the kind of company I want to work with. And we developed a partnership, and we trained people in purpose, and he helped us to discover our purpose at EY, which is building a better working world. And it's really building a better working world for our employees, for our clients, and for our communities. And then we had to put the other blah blah in to explain sort of a little more context about it, but the tagline, the purpose statement is building a better working world. And that's important because our previous tagline was quality in everything we do. A little different. One kind of inward focused, and now all of a sudden we're outward focused. And so we've done tons of research on vision statements and purpose statements that you can find them on companies on the internet, and it's interesting to see what they've done and what they consider to be a purpose. Some of them are quite good, and some of them are, I think, fall short. So we did this, and we could say we're done. I got 8 minutes left. We could go drink and say, hey, there it is. We did it. Purpose at work. But that was the beginning of the journey. That was the start of things. And so now, how do you activate that? And that's not so easy. We found out that there's many different dimensions of that, and we had to remember we were talking about there's office space that are our physical space is an issue, and we looked at some others. We looked at if you're going to transform the collective why that you see up here. That's our purpose. That's our reason for being. So that's building a better working world. But we can't just do that. We have to talk about how do we evaluate and reward performance in our firm? What's our physical environment like? How do we team together? Are we going to be high-performing teams? And with all the digital changes going on, how do we lead through in a digital world? What are the competencies that you need? And there's one more up there that may surprise you, the mindfulness one. And someone said, I took notes because I found all the talks today just fascinating, but said that the employees are hurting. Oh, that was Alexi. People are hurting. And part of the mindfulness was with all the change, everything being thrown at us, and the digital environment and the changes and the disruptions, that we needed to figure out a way to manage stress and to be present. And so mindfulness became part of the picture here. And again, since I'm looking through the wrong end of the telescope, I can only imagine that there are some very senior leaders globally in the firm that were not really bought into this mindfulness dimension. But I don't know personally. I can only guess. On the performance side, we did away with ratings. So that will be interesting. I was very interested in the talk where the young woman mentioned that she would not do away with ratings and was explaining why. When we heard the talk from Edelman on trust, and I was doing the checks thing. Did we do that? Did we do that? Did we do that? And really assessing how well we had done to go through these elements. I wanted to double click down on the collective why. So each one of these had entire programs that were built out and executed. We redid all of our space. We invested $1 billion in technology. We launched programs on high-performing teaming. Each one of these had a whole roots and program that extended throughout the organization. On the collective why, we looked at a combination of the strategy, our organizational competencies, and the societal needs, and we wanted to say what's the sweet spot where we want to play for expressing and activating our purpose into the world, into the community. And we came up with these 3 E's, and when I say we, I mean people that do this for a living, and they came up with 3 areas of focus: entrepreneurs, and education, and equity in the workforce. So, and there was talk today about the need. We still have improvements to be made in that. So when we go out and we do programs. We have Entrepreneur of the Year program when we do volunteer work out into the community, and we have an EY Connect Day where everybody in North America spends the day out contributing in the community. We're focused in these three areas. And so this becomes, this activation of purpose, to me, watching this happen as an employee is part of the way that we establish this resonance, and it either resonates with our people we want to attract to the firm and the people that are here, or it doesn't. And so this is where I think we get this alignment of personal purpose, individual purpose with the organizational purpose. In doing the work with Simon, doing the workshops, my personal purpose is to is to focus on the best in people to help them reach their potential. And your purpose is allowed to change over time. That's okay. The purpose, it comes from stories. It comes from, same thing with an organization. It starts with stories because stories speak to the limbic brain, the nonverbal, et cetera. That's where the meaning comes from. So anyway, these are the areas that we spend time in. We have the professional networks. We have volunteer activities, and I probably over the years, been out to charter schools and been involved in the Entrepreneur of the Year program. And just a quick anecdote. Never mind. It's not going to be quick enough. Okay, back to the neocortex. So the limbic brain, you guys are happy with the limbic brain. We got meaning, we got purpose and everything. Then we got to talk to folks who want to lead with their neocortex. So we got this. We got 1.4 times more engaged, more satisfied, more likely to stay, et cetera, outperformed, financial results, all of this. And I think there was some interesting, I think Alexi had some interesting results tied with meaning. And there were some other rank order things where purpose was in those. And so this, this was to satisfy the people that want to have the logic and the rational and want to see the hard benefits. But there were, to me, in my journey, I think that part of what I'm feeling as a recipient of this, as a participant in it, was a place that felt safe and that felt development oriented and that felt like it cared about its employees, its clients, and its communities. And we're told that by our clients, that they experience us differently as we team with them. And, I'd like to believe that part of it is this. We attract people to the firm that have like-minded, kind of desire to be part of high-performing teams, to live out a purpose, to give more than just the workday. And I think that works. For another time, a discussion about how much meaning should we expect to get from our jobs versus outside of work. That's another story, but more and more people obviously want the opportunity to get that meaning from their work. So if I was on the D&I side at the firm, I would probably love this slide because I'd be really proud. We just made 21 years on the Fortune 100 Best Companies to Work For list and these awards. So as a person of the firm, this is nice, but I don't think I feel it quite as deeply as somebody who is on that side in our business would. So just to get to the end here, as we look forward now, the reason I think we're about to do this again is because we're facing another set of challenging circumstances. We've got 4 generations in the workforce that are coexisting. We've got everybody's going through digital transformation right now. We have 4 different kinds of employees. We have full-time employees, contingent workers, we've got remote workers, and we've got robots. And I'm not sure the robots care all that much about purpose, but I know that most of the others do, and so if we can, we have to figure out how to manage these workforce groups. So the business case for purpose is a Harvard Business Review publication. It was jointly sponsored by EY. It was just done last year, and it has lots of really interesting data in it about the business case for purpose. But one of the things I wanted to highlight, just because I thought it says sort of where we are in the journey and looking forward, kind of some of the challenges that we have left. The respondents reported that in terms of purpose, employee satisfaction, business transformation, they felt like all of these things were highly correlated with purpose. When they were asked about their own organizations, does your strategy reflect it? Does it have a shared purpose? Are the execs and employees aligned? Not as much. So probably closer, below 50% on that. And so that's our opportunity. And I think someone else said it's more important that they're aligned than that you get it exactly right. And I think that's right. So, so everyone's kind of on this journey. We're trying to figure it out. EY certainly is not perfect. But I will say that because of the feelings that I have about the firm, I allow a lot more noise and friction than I might otherwise. So we're going through changes all the time, and like I said, we're not perfect, but we're trying. And one last thing to leave you with, we also learned the 7 dimensions that I showed you about, it wasn't enough. So as we take our clients through the same kind of journey, what we learned is that we have to get into the operating model. We have to get into the strategy. We have to get into the organization structure. We have to get into the governance. If we don't get into the operating model elements and we're just in the operating environment, we can't really get these sustainable changes into the organization. And so this is the road that we're on right now. Now, don't despair, you don't have to do all of these at once. There's a lot of interrelationships, but you can pick a couple of these that relate to each other and go do a solution. And that's generally the way they work and the way that we do them. But if you think from a design thinking perspective, you have to be holistic. This is our holistic model for how to be able to transform organizations and have them be purpose-led. So, 3 ideas to leave you with. 1, start with why. 2, connect to the community. And that's, I think, where our employees, the meaning, a lot of it comes from being in service to others. That's when we tend to feel our best. And so that becomes an exceedingly important component of activating a purpose, and then understanding all the levers that need to be used, including the operating model. This is not going to work through just communications. Thank you very much.